I like the fact that it's not a black and white, simplistic story. You know, there's a lot of there are a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of they have arguments, they have discussions, and there's no, you know, you can see both guys' point of view, and all these discussions they have and all their cultural differences. Some of them are very funny. But as the story goes on, they come to find common ground and relate to each other in a more honest, open-minded way as human beings. And that's what I loved about the script, and that's what I loved about making the movie. It's sad, you know, sometimes, you know, at least from Tony's point of view, it's like, look at this guy, he's such a lonely guy. You know, when the show's over, he doesn't go out and celebrate. He goes to his hotel room and he, you know, drinks a half a bottle or a whole bottle of whiskey every night just by himself. And, you know, I'm like wanting to eat and talk and smoke and, hey, what's happening? What's this town like, you know? And he's not interested. So it takes a long time for them to get to know each other, but it's a well-earned friendship. At that time, you know, there was a lot of upward social and economic mobility, but mostly for whites. And, you know, people like Tony were struggling to make a living and all that, but things were looking up, and as a nation, especially if you're white, you felt like, well, yeah, we're the greatest country in the world, and, you know, screw the Russians and the Soviets and communism, and we're great. And, you know, there was just, you're feeling your oats in a way, but there's a certain obliviousness to a lot of social tension, racial tension in the country, all over the country, not just in the South, but in, you know, in the Northeast as well, everywhere. Things that you just took for granted and you didn't realize it was wrong until you're face to face with extreme cases of that, which they have to deal with on their trip. The main thing that I liked about him was his heart and his accessibility in a way, you know, as coarse and maybe even violent as he seems at first, because he's this guy who's got a temper and like, whoop, and that's why he's a good bodyguard, but he's kind of like a guy you don't want to mess with. As coarse as he seems at first, he actually turns out to be a guy who's a man of his word and someone who's essentially decent. You know, he's, in a way, he's a natural gentleman. This is a movie about a relationship between a black man and a white man, but the backdrop is one of obvious social problems and racial differences. In many ways, we're clearly facing the same problems right now, and I think there's an interest and kind of a horror from some people, depending on your point of view, as they watch the news from the United States of America. It's like, wow.